love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies, what's good? UFC 290, Volkanovski taking on Yair Rodriguez. As always, we start by looking at the bets I made from last week. Hey, let's go. Clean sweep, back-to-back clean sweeps. My first bet was Luana Carolina at plus 180, and guys, I know Luana's a bit of a trash can. You know, it's just one of those bets where if you're a long-term UFC gambler, you kinda had to make that bet. I also had a bet on Romanov at minus 125, and guys, if you ask me, Blagoy Ivanov needs to be cut, because that fight was just too easy for Alexander Romanov. And I also had a bet on the Sultan Raziboev at plus 170, another really good bet. As always guys, you can find all my bets on my Patreon account. Be sure to also join the Discord group if you're looking for a good, high quality UFC betting group. So yeah guys, we're on a nice 8-bet win streak, and look at all these betting lines. Look at these lines. Can we get sharper? Now moving into the promised land of MoneyCity. Guys, if you see your name on the screen, you already know. That's money. Pure money. We're the MoneyCity gang, the best in the game. My only question is simple. Can you do it again? Can we do it again? Guys, are we gonna do it again? Let's go. Alright guys, moving into the first matchup on this card, we've got Kamuela Kirk taking on Esteban Ribovics. And this is quite a good matchup that doesn't have an obvious winner. Kamuela Kirk is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. His grappling is pretty good. He's also got a wide stance on the feet. You know, a karate stance, and his boxing's pretty sharp. However guys, when we look at the weaknesses of Kamuela Kirk, his cardio's not great, his output isn't the best, and he did get mauled by Damon Jackson on the mat in his last fight. He's now going to be stepping up to lightweight 155. On the flip side, Ribovics had a pretty tough UFC debut against Loik Radzhabov. Essentially, his defensive wrestling wasn't good enough. I think Radzhabov got like 10 takedowns in that fight. But yeah, the takedown defense of Ribovics clearly not good in his UFC debut. Now the positives for Ribovics would be he's very aggressive, super aggressive, fights at a high pace, and his boxing is also pretty sharp. So both of these guys, their boxing's pretty sharp, but the weaknesses would be one of these guys doesn't have good cardio. And I think if this matchup is 1-1 heading into that final round, Ribovics probably does better, you know, assuming Kirk is exhausted at that point. For 10 minutes, I kind of expect this matchup to be pretty competitive, but the main deciding factor for me is Ribovics likes to fight at a higher pace, and Kirk probably gets tired in that pace. So for me personally, I'm going to side with Ribovics. I think he's going to get a late stoppage or potentially a 15-minute decision win. My pick is Ribovics. Alright, moving into the next matchup, we've got Shannon Ross taking on Jesus Aguilar. Now this is going to be a super low level matchup on the Fight Pass prelims here at 125. Shannon Ross got absolutely dusted on the Contender Series. I went back and rewatched that fight, and Shannon did have a few moments, like a few moments where he was able to clip Salvador, but for the most part, he took a lot of damage and eventually got TKO'd. Then you look in his UFC debut, which was a short notice UFC debut. He didn't survive long against Clinton Rodriguez, essentially got dusted again. Now Jesus Aguilar on the flip side is 5'4", with the shortest reach in the UFC out of all of the male fighters. So he's a little tank. And guys, if you look at Jesus Aguilar, he does close distance pretty quickly. Like, that's something that you've got to do when you're at a physical disadvantage. Now personally guys, I would not advise betting on a flyweight fight between Shannon Ross and Jesus Aguilar. But if I had to bet this matchup, gun to the head, I would bet on the Mexican, the little tank, Jesus Aguilar. Potentially to get takedowns, potentially to land some big punches on the feet. It does seem 50-50, and it's not really a matchup I'd like to invest in. But yeah, I'll side with Jesus Aguilar. Alright, moving into a matchup between Saaimon taking on Terrance Mitchell. Now, Saaimon was originally supposed to fight Christian Rodriguez, which would have been a very good prospects fight. Now scheduled to fight Terrance Mitchell, who's been competing at Alaska FC or Alaska Combat Entertainment. Now guys, anyone that's competing over on those Alaska events, in my opinion, 100% automatic fade. Now, Terrance Mitchell actually competed on The Ultimate Fighter back in 2016. He fought against Kaikara France and got absolutely dusted. Saaimon on the flip side, only 22 years old but already looking like a very promising prospect. His fight on the Contender Series was good work, finds a nasty TKO stoppage towards the end of that matchup. He was able to find a stoppage against Steve Kozlow, and I'm still not sure who Steve Kozlow really is, but it was a good win for Saaimon. And then most recently, his most impressive work to date, in my opinion, against Mana Martinez. Saaimon showed excellent speed and technique. He just looked really good in that matchup. So yeah guys, in my opinion, all day, I'm siding with Saaimon to win this matchup against Terrance Mitchell. There's only one Terrance, and it's McKinney. It's not Mitchell. Okay, moving into a matchup between Vitor Petrino taking on Marcin Prachnio. Now essentially guys, this is a matchup where it's going to be kicking. The kicking of Marcin Prachnio versus the power punching, the boxing of Vitor Petrino. So it's going to be kicking versus boxing. Now Marcin Prachnio is the karate practitioner. And if you listen to my breakdowns religiously, you know how I feel about karate players. In my opinion, karate doesn't work unless you're Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And Marcin Prachnio is not that of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, if we look at Marcin Prachnio with his first few fights, he got badly knocked out by Sam Alvey, Magomed Ankalaev and Mike Rodriguez of all people. Now, looking at Vitor Petrino, he won his Contender Series matchup viciously starching his opponent. His UFC debut was a good fight against Anton Turkali. He didn't find a knockout but went the full 15 minutes and it was a good fight. Now guys, here's the problem with Vitor Petrino. There's a lot of muscle on the frame, right? When you've got a lot of muscle, your cardio's gonna take a hit. However guys, if you rewatch some of Prachnio's fights, this guy also gets tired. So the cardio of Vitor Petrino, it's not going to be too much of a worry if the opponent is also getting tired. Both of these guys could be tired after 10 minutes. I do think it's a pretty good matchup for Vitor Petrino. You know, as soon as he lands clean on the chin of Prachnio, I'm quite sure he can find a KO stoppage. It's going to be boxing versus kicking. And all day, I'm with the big power puncher in this matchup. There's going to be potential for Vitor Petrino to get takedowns if he wants. But even if this matchup stays on the feet, I do side with the boxing, the power punching. So that's going to be my pick. I'm going to side against Marcin Prachnio. I'm going to pick Vitor Petrino to win this matchup. I'm more than likely by KO stoppage. Alright, moving into a matchup between Edgar Chairez taking on Tatsuro Taira. Now this matchup is going to be a mismatch. Edgar Chairez needs to avoid being taken to the mat, which he probably doesn't avoid. If he does avoid getting taken to the mat, he's got to find some success with the boxing, with the Mexican boxing, which is also going to be difficult considering Tatsuro Taira is an excellent striker. His power's good, the precision's good, the accuracy is all good. Now guys, Edgar Chairez did give a good account of himself on the Contender Series against Clayton Carpenter. It was a good performance, you know, respectable, serviceable. But Tatsuro Taira is just better than Clayton Carpenter, much better. It's a mismatch. I think Tatsuro Taira wins this matchup on the mat. I think he wins this matchup on the feet. I think he wins this matchup however he wants to win this matchup. Now guys, just to speak on a gambling perspective, do we want to bet minus 900 if we think Tatsuro Taira is going to win this matchup? Obviously not, right? Obviously not. For me personally guys, I don't make bets to be right. I don't do that. I make bets to make money, right? There's no money to be made here. It's just an ego bet, which is not my type of thing. I make bets to make money, not to be right. Yeah, Tatsuro Taira should win this matchup, and probably by submission if I had to pick. Alright, moving into a matchup between Jimmy Crute taking on Alonzo Menifield. Here we go, guys. Absolute banger alert. Rematch banger alert. Now, in their first matchup, I did side with Alonzo Menifield at plus 150. I didn't make that pick because Alonzo had a really good chance of winning the fight. I made that pick because plus 150 Alonzo Menifield compared to Jimmy Crute minus 200. By far it was an easy prediction, an easy bet to make, because Alonzo Menifield at plus 150 in a pretty close fight, that was an easy pick. However, guys, if you look at the betting line on the rematch, both of these guys are minus 110. So the betting line has changed based on what happened in their matchup. And if we look at the first fight, Alonzo Menifield showed to be very effective with the striking. His big punches hurt Jimmy Crute. Alonzo Menifield won that fight, right? If he doesn't grab the fence, he wins that fight. Now this time round, I will be swapping my pick to Jimmy Crute. And like I said, again, I'm doing that because the odds, right? I'm not picking Alonzo first time round because Alonzo's got a great chance. I picked Alonzo because plus 150, 40%. That's a good deal. Now guys, this time round, the odds aligned minus 110, and I kind of think Jimmy Crute at minus 110 is the better pick. It's the better trade. Alonzo Menifield is 10 years older than Jimmy Crute, and you kind of see the age gap in the final round of the first matchup. Alonzo looked exhausted after 10 minutes, and Jimmy Crute was also tired, but way more to offer. So both of these guys get tired after 10 minutes. We know Jimmy Crute is better when they're both fatigued. We know that Jimmy Crute's grappling is better than Alonzo Menifield's, but we also know that Alonzo Menifield carries big knockout power. For me personally, guys, I'm going to be siding with Jimmy Crute to use his grappling, potentially find a submission win or a decision win. Or maybe Alonzo goes in there and just finds a big KO stoppage. For me this time round, I will be changing my pick. I'm going to be siding with Jimmy Crute. Alright, moving into a matchup between Yazmin Harrell taking on Denise Gomes. And this is going to be striker versus striker, low-key fire matchup. Yazmin has excellent boxing. Her speed is so evident. Super fast punches, technical, she's tough. She's a good Mexican boxer. And on the flip side, Denise Gomes certainly isn't lacking power. Her power is definitely there, which we see against Bruna Brazil. Now guys, how does Denise win this matchup? I don't think she's going to find the same type of success with her punches as she did against Bruna. And that's because Yazmin is a better striker. She's a better boxer than Bruna Brazil. It's going to be way more difficult to find those big fight-ending punches this time round against Yazmin Harrell. And guys, if you look at the grappling and physicality of Denise Gomes, in my opinion, it's really not impressive. A lot of the time in women's mixed martial arts, it does come down to who's stronger, who's more physical, who can impose their will. And in this case, I don't really expect Denise Gomes to be able to bully Yazmin in the clinch or on the mat. I do expect mainly a striking matchup. And in that striking matchup, one of these fighters is just quicker, better combinations, better straight punches. And I will be siding with the better striker, the better boxer, the impressive Yazmin Harrell to win this matchup. Alright, moving into a matchup between JDM taking on Josiah Harrell. Now guys, this is going to be a mismatch, another mismatch unfortunately on this pay-per-view event that kind of ruins the pay-per-view event. I don't mean to sound ungrateful, but it's just events like this, we want to see prospects competing against good competition. You know, Tatsuro Taira isn't competing against good competition. JDM is not competing against good competition. And we're going to get to the Bo Nickal matchup, but the same thing. Again, it's not good competition. It is a little bit disappointing, but still, JDM versus Josiah Harrell. Wrestling versus boxing. Now, JDM is a fantastic boxer. Excellent boxer. Whether JDM is targeting your skull or targeting the midsection, his boxing is super good. Now guys, on the flip side, you've got Josiah, who claims to be a hamster or a muscled hamster. Now guys, unfortunately for Josiah, there's not a hamster on this planet that could cause problems for JDM. So I'm going to predict that JDM wins this matchup in round number 1. If Josiah can survive longer than 5 minutes, that would be pretty impressive. but I kinda doubt it. So yeah, give me JDM, round 1 stoppage. Alright, moving into a matchup between Ruthless Robbie Lawler taking on the hybrid Niko Price. Absolute banger. Now guys, both Robbie Lawler and Niko Price are going to engage in absolute violence. Blood shall be donated in a matchup like this. Niko Price is always in entertaining fights. He's always in entertaining wars. It doesn't matter who he's fighting. Niko Price is always looking to engage in absolute chaos. However, there is a price to pay when you only compete in firefights. The price you pay is potentially shortening your UFC career, your fighting career, and you also give the opponent a chance to land their best shot. Now on the flip side, Robbie Lawler has competed in many firefights. He's now 41 years old. So really Robbie Lawler shouldn't be getting into any more fights. He shouldn't be getting into the octagon at 41 years old. And that's going to be the main reason why I pick against Robbie Lawler. Now guys, absolutely there is going to be a chance that Robbie Lawler could TKO Niko Price, because that's the type of matchup we've got. We've got a matchup where both of these guys are going to look for stoppages. They're not going to get into the cage and try to win rounds. They're not going to get into the cage and try to win a 15-minute decision. They're not going to do that. Both Robbie Lawler and Niko Price are going to get into a cage fight. They're going to get into a mixed martial arts fight where there's a lot of violence. And they're going to look to stop each other. That's the matchup you've got here. So gun to the head, I'm going to side with Niko Price to find a stoppage against Robbie Lawler. If you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's always been a triple amen gang. Let's go. Amen gang, smoke break gang, MoneyCity gang, we're all the gangs. Let's go. Now guys, my smoke break question is this. Does Sean Strickland deserve a title shot? Because guys, if that fight happens, I would honestly line Adesanya like -900. But that's the question. Does Sean Strickland deserve to fight for the middleweight championship? Personally, I'm not against Sean Strickland fighting Adesanya, because the press conference would be hilarious. You know, Sean Strickland and Adesanya going back and forth. That would be jokes. And guys, if you want all the bets that I'm personally going to be making for UFC 290, the only way to do that is to join my Patreon. Also be sure to join the Discord group. I can't really guarantee that we would win the bets for UFC 290, but what I can guarantee is I do believe as a gambler I've got a better chance than the line indicates on both my bets, and hopefully we can continue the winning streak. Alright, let's go. Alright, moving into a matchup between Bo Nickal taking on Val Woodburn. Now guys, this is going to be another complete mismatch. And the reason why it's a mismatch is because Bo Nickal is, you know, one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. Top 5. Absolutely top 5. So really guys, can Val Woodburn compete with the wrestling of Bo Nickal? Absolutely not. No, he cannot. So basically, the UFC just found a really easy opponent for their new cash cow to destroy, which basically makes their cash cow an even bigger cash cow to the casual eye. Now the casuals will see this fight finish within a couple minutes, and they're probably going to buy into the Bo Nickal hype even more. But in my opinion, why? Guys, why would a win over Val Woodburn improve Bo Nickal's stock? A win over Val Woodburn should not improve Bo Nickal's stock. Now my official prediction for this matchup is going to be Bo Nickal gets a takedown within 20 seconds. Woodburn tries to stand up. Bo Nickal capitalizes on Woodburn giving up his back. Bo Nickal sinks in a clean rear naked choke, and the fight is done within a minute, maybe 2 minutes. But yeah, why would anyone applaud Bo Nickal for winning this matchup? There's nothing to be impressed with in this matchup. The UFC does need to do a better job at putting together matchups, because guys, who wants to pay for a pay-per-view event when these type of matchups are being made? Who wants to do it? Nobody, right? And rightfully so. And I understand that Tresean Gore was the original opponent, but even then, Tresean Gore, it was a mismatch. And this one's an even bigger mismatch. You know, if you want people to pay for your pay-per-view events, you gotta do a better job. The pick is Bo Nickal. Alright, moving into a matchup between Dan Hooker taking on Jalen Turner. Now guys, this is a quality 155 matchup. Dan the Hangman Hooker is a fighter pretty much every MMA fan appreciates. We love his toughness. We love his willingness to fight anyone, his willingness to stand and trade. Nothing but violence and entertainment from Dan the Hangman Hooker. Now on the flip side, Jalen Turner has excellent boxing. The way he dusted Jamie Malarkey was super impressive. The way he dusted Brad Riddell, impressive. The way he dusted Medic, impressive. I even took Jalen Turner at plus 200 against Gamrot, and his performance was absolutely a performance that covered a 33% price tag. Now guys, Jalen Turner's jiu-jitsu is going to be better than Dan Hooker's, but I don't really see a grappling matchup. I see a striking matchup. No, Dan Hooker's not going to look for takedowns, and neither is Jalen Turner. I think they're going to look to strike. You know, who's going to find that stoppage in a striking matchup? Because both of these guys have a good track record of finding stoppages. If you look at Dan Hooker, his counter knees are really good, but they're probably not going to be there considering Jalen Turner is even taller than Dan Hooker. The counter knees are usually good when the opponent is, you know, smaller and also shooting for takedowns. That's not going to be the case against Jalen Turner. Now guys, if I had to guess who's going to look better in the opening 5 minutes, I would have to say Jalen Turner. But guys, if I had to guess who's more likely to have a big comeback win, I would say Dan Hooker. I do expect Jalen Turner to be sharper in the opening 5 minutes, but guarding against complacency is going to be key for Jalen Turner. Because guys, if you're in there with somebody that's super experienced, somebody who's a veteran, the way Dan Hooker is, the fight's not done in the first 5 minutes. You may look good in the first 5, but there's still another 10 minutes to be had. You know, so guarding against complacency would be key for Jalen Turner. Guys, I'm going to side with Jalen Turner to win this matchup, but don't be shocked if Dan Hooker is getting dusted early on and then works his way back into the matchup. Because if Jalen Turner gets tired, you know, Dan Hooker's tough. Dan Hooker's not going away. The matchup could get pretty crazy, you know, so I'm going to side with Jalen Turner. But like I said, don't be shocked. Alright guys, moving into a matchup between Robert Whittaker taking on Dricus du Plessis. The real South African versus the former middleweight champion, Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper, Robert Whittaker. And by the way, Dricus du Plessis, nobody really cares you're talking about, I'm the real African, I'm the real... Nobody cares. But yeah, Dricus du Plessis, he's aggressive, he's explosive, he can wrestle, his ground and pound is good. There's many good things we can speak about on the side of Dricus du Plessis, and that's essentially the reason why he's 5-0 in the UFC. However guys, his cardio isn't great. All of those explosive movements result in fatigue. Dricus du Plessis hasn't been taught the lesson on getting tired early in a fight. But guys, as we know, as you go up the rankings, it becomes more and more likely that soon he shall be taught a few lessons on his weaknesses. Now Robert Whittaker, the former champion that seems to beat anybody that's not named Israel Adesanya. His father is named Adesanya and he seems to be everybody else's father. So yeah, Robert Whittaker is just better than Dricus du Plessis, in my opinion. There's more composure, there's more intelligence. He's going to teach the South African a lesson in this matchup. I do think the money line on Robert Whittaker is a little bit juiced, but like I said, he's just better than Dricus du Plessis. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing Dricus kind of humbled for the first time. I have made some money on most of his matchups, but yeah, I'm going to be picking against Dricus du Plessis. I picked against him with Darren Till, and before then I took him in all of his matchups. But in this one, I will be picking against Dricus. I just think his cardio's not good. And if he uses all of those explosive movements early in the matchup, I think it's pretty likely that Robert Whittaker would expose his cardio, right? Show him, look, if you're this tired in the matchup, I'm going to tee off. So yeah, I think Robert does win this matchup. Alright, moving into the co-main event, we've got Brandon Moreno taking on Alexandre Pantoja. And what a flyweight rematch this is. Guys, Pantoja absolutely deserves a crack at gold. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, super dangerous ground game, and his striking is pretty good, you know, serviceable. And guys, Pantoja already has a win over Brandon Moreno. However, that was 5 years ago. That was then, this is now. How much has Brandon Moreno improved in half a decade. He's improved by leaps and bounds, improved massively. Now on the flip side, has Pantoja improved in those 5 years? I wouldn't say he's improved much, but I wouldn't say he's declined. He's still competing at a very high level, and that's the reason why he's getting a crack at the 125 championship. Now, could Pantoja take the back of Brandon Moreno, find a submission, and become the 125 champion? He absolutely could. Could Pantoja be competitive for 10 minutes, then start to fade, you know, start to gas? You know, the gas tank of Pantoja's not great. That's absolutely possible, in my opinion. Now guys, this is a 25-minute matchup, and in a 25-minute matchup, you've got to be smart. You can't use too much energy early in the fight. And I kind of think Pantoja isn't going to be good enough to manage his energy in a chess match. I also think Pantoja would struggle in a technique for technique chess match against Brandon Moreno 5 years later. So guys, in my opinion, if you like Pantoja to become the new champion, you can take the plus money line. But in my opinion, even smarter to take a round 1 prop, a round 2 prop. You could take submission prop. You can take the inside for distance prop. All of these props are going to be plus money. But for me personally, guys, I do believe Brandon Moreno has improved so much. You know, Pantoja's going to find it difficult to win these rounds, especially if he fatigues. So I'm going to take the champion to find revenge in this rematch. And still, the flyweight champion, the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno. The main event, we've got Alexander Volkanovski taking on Yair Rodriguez. Now guys, essentially you've got one of the best mixed martial artists on the planet competing against one of the best kickers on the planet. If we look at the overall game of Volkanovski, he's extremely well-rounded, extremely good in pretty much every area you can be good in. Physicality, wrestling, boxing, cardio, toughness, IQ, work ethic, aggression, accuracy. I can go on and on and on. The facts are, Volkanovski is literally one of the best fighters on the planet. On the flip side, you've got Yair Rodriguez, who isn't anywhere near as good as Volkanovski if we're comparing the fighters skill for skill. However guys, there is one area that Rodriguez is definitely better at, and that's going to be kicking. Yair Rodriguez is really good at kicking. So what does that mean for Volkanovski? What does it mean to be better than your opponent pretty much everywhere other than kicking? Guys, it means that Volkanovski needs to take away the kicking space that Rodriguez wants to use. It means that Volkanovski cannot be kept at the end of the kicks of Yair Rodriguez. So Volkanovski is going to want to push Yair Rodriguez against the fence, which means the kicks have been taken away. He can also bring Yair Rodriguez to the mat from the fence, which also means the kicks have been taken away. Or he can stay in the pocket, which again, you've nullified the kick in space. And guys, we also have to think about the cardio of both of these fighters. How much success can Yair Rodriguez find with his kicks after 10 minutes? If Yair Rodriguez starts to slow down before Volkanovski, this means that Volkanovski is going to be even more likely to take away the kick in space. So guys, not only will the beginning of this matchup be difficult for Yair Rodriguez, it's going to be even more difficult after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes. It's an extremely difficult fight for Yair Rodriguez. Now guys, if Yair Rodriguez does win this matchup, it's going to be like a body kick stoppage, a head kick stoppage, a front kick stoppage. But guys, in my opinion, look for the Volkanovski stoppage round 3, round 4. I think Volkanovski could find a nasty ground and pound stoppage, similar to what Frankie done to Yair Rodriguez. So my official prediction will be, and still, Alexander Volkanovski. As always guys, drop down your main event, your co-main event, your underdogs, your MoneyCity plays, all that good stuff. Drop it in the comment section below. And as always, eyes to the sky, never glued to your shoes. Peace.